Well, this is a video idea that I've surprisingly never done yet, but I was inspired by Kyle Peterson, very interesting YouTuber that talks about various toys. He does a series talking about like the 10s, best, worst, whatever of almost anything that has come out toy-wise in the year. And one list that he does is the top 10 Pegwarmers of the year. And it's very interesting seeing the various Pegwarmers that he calls out. And it got me thinking about the Pegwarmers of Transformers in the year of 2024. Because I feel like there's been quite a few. Now, not all of them are Pegwarmers. Some of them are shelf warmers. They're a little too big for the pegs. But I have picked out 10 figures that I personally feel like are noteworthy Pegwarmers in the year. Now, I do have to immediately put out this disclaimer. Your area will be different from my area. This is pretty much just based on what I saw and the ones I feel like are the most prominent to point out. There are some that I definitely still saw a lot of. Like, I saw a couple that are not on this list. I saw a lot of Studio Series Bumblebee movie Shockwaves. I saw a lot of Legacy Voyager Vector Primes. I saw a lot of those figures, but I didn't feel like they lingered around as much, or they just weren't as egregious or odd to see as some of these other ones were. However, I have two figures here to kind of kick us off. Neither of these are on the list, surprisingly. So, Legacy RC was quite the peg warmer, I would say, last year and the year before. Oh my gosh, you could not escape this figure. I literally could not escape this figure. I got a second one. I got one as a Secret Santa present at my job last holiday season. I literally could not escape this figure. It was so funny. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely a good figure if you ask me, but I feel like for whatever reason, it just wasn't moving, man. It just wasn't moving. And I still did see this figure from time to time in this year, but I feel like she's just fading away a little bit too much. I didn't want to put her on the list. Next up, Studio Series Bumblebee. This one is a peg warmer by design. Hasbro intentionally said they're going to make a ton of these Bumblebees, so pretty much anyone who wants a nice G1 Bumblebee is going to have one. Adults and kids included. And given how Bumblebee hasn't had a very large, mass retail release figure in ages, a lot of Bumblebees have been pretty, retailer exclusive, kind of on the down low. I think it's okay that the stores are currently flooded with this Bumblebee, because Bumblebee is an A-list character where I feel like there should be a toy of him readily available all the time. I'm okay with this guy being everywhere, but I had to point it out because he is everywhere. Alrighty, with those honorable mentions out of the way, let's kick things off with number 10. This one's an odd one. Studio Series RC, the 86 one. I genuinely still see this figure at some Walmarts from time to time. It's shocking when I see it, but I think one of the biggest reasons I see it still is because this figure suffered from accessible ball joint in an open window package syndrome. A lot of the ones I still see don't have heads anymore. They have been ripped off, LeBron James style. Rip, they gone. But it's shocking that I still have seen this RC after all this time in 2024. This figure came out a good while ago, and I had to put it on the list because of that fact, because it is a head rip victim, and the fact that I've still seen it after all this time. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. Next up on the list, this one kind of breaks my heart to put on the list, because it's probably one of my favorite figures of the year. It's Legacy Voyager Cybertron Starscream. This guy's great, but I see him all the time. I think they went pretty heavy on manufacturing this guy because I just cannot escape him. He's everywhere. I see him more than Vector Prime, and I see Vector Prime a good amount, but I see this guy even more. I am not joking. I am always seeing this guy, but I don't mind seeing it as much because it is one of my favorite figures of the year, and I really hope we get some repaints of this guy. I think there's a rumor that would make it a Skywarp repaint. I would be totally there for that. But it's a great mold, dude. Seriously, one of my favorite Voyagers Hasbro has released in recent years. The articulation, the sculpt, the source material, this appeals to me very deeply. It's a very awesome figure. And if you don't have one, hey, it's been lingering around long enough. I'm sure you could get it for a pretty good price. I feel like Starscream is definitely quite the victim of being a peg warmer or a shelf warmer pretty often, because if I had done this video last year, the Legacy Armada Starscream would have definitely been on the list. That guy took quite some time to finally get cleared out of retail. But hey, we've got another Starscream warming the pegs. Might not be the last one. Another one that pains me to put on the list, Legacy Deluxe Strong Arm. I'm not sure if you may recall, but last year, when I did my top 10 Transformers of the year, this Strong Arm was actually on the list. This is one of my favorite deluxes they have done in recent years. I may be just kind of biased because I really like Strong Arm's design and I've always wanted a rather nice figure of it, and I think this figure is actually very nice. Sure, it's an Elita 1 retool, but I think it does a really good job at like trying to be who it's trying to be. The reason why this figure is still a shelf warmer after all this time is because, like I said, I love this figure, but I feel like it had its time in the sun. They didn't need to re-release it or anything. It had its release. I think everyone who really wanted it got it then. All cool. They re-released it. They put it back out for Legacy United, and I don't think that was necessary. I genuinely don't. It's a great figure, but it did not need another run. It just, I don't think the sales were there. I don't think the demand was there, and obviously it wasn't because I still see this all of the time. It's a good one, though. Again, I think it's one that I would recommend if you do get it on a sale. It's the best iteration of a pretty cool RID character. I mean, look at the paint on it, too. I've gushed about this enough. I've done a whole old versus new on this figure if you want to watch that. Strong Arm. Definitely, unfortunately, has to be on the list. This one's kind of an odd one because I feel like it goes to various figures, and this is just the representative. Core Class Bomb Burst is here to represent all of the Core Class figures that just did not sell this year. If I had gotten the Beast Machine's Cheetor, he definitely would have been in its place. But I swear, I see various Core Class figures all the time. I'm pretty sure Bomb Burst is one of them. There's the Grimlock. There's so many that just don't move, man. They just don't move. And I think I picked Bomb Burst number one because I've actually never really shown this figure off before, and it's a really cool one. But number two, I feel like it just shows, like, yeah, Core Class did some very obscure characters and odd designs that I don't think a lot of people were really going after. And unfortunately, Core Class, it seems like it is coming to an end. And I feel like all of these unsold peg-warming Core Class figures is probably the reason why. And that's why I had to throw a Core Class on this list, because I feel like Core Class just was not moving in 2024, unfortunately. Next up, I'm pretty sure everyone saw this coming. We still see Studio Series Rise of the Beast Deluxe Air-Razor. This one is still everywhere. When I originally was conceiving this list, I was thinking about putting Rise of the Beast Bumblebee on here too, but I think all the Bumblebees have sold, especially for the holidays and everything. I'm filming this right at the end of 2024. It'll post early 2025, but I think the Bumblebees have pretty much sold, but I still see Air-Razors. I think one of the biggest reasons why is because she, didn't even transform in the movie. Not a very cool Transformers character when you don't even transform. Now, I understand why she didn't in the movie. They wanted to save the whole transformation for that big moment near the end. But it kind of suffers, for the toy's sake, that you get a Transformer. And, I keep this one displayed in bird mode because that's canonically all she appeared as. It's a good one. I mean, it's a good one. It's definitely a nice version of Air-Razor. But it's just everywhere, man. It's another one that you just can't escape. All right, we're moving into the top 5, and this is another one that pains me to put on this list. Legacy Dragon Megatron. He just has to immediately go in the back because he's so big. Great figure. Seriously incredible. But it suffers the same issue that Strong Arm had. They re-released it. Now, I think the re-release was nice because this Dragon Megatron did get kind of hard to get for a while. But I think the re-release just kind of went a little too far because Skyquake got re-released along with it. And I saw this Megatron and Skyquake. There's some points I saw it for deluxe price. I saw it for half off. Wild. And again, don't get me wrong. It's a great toy. Just because it's a shelf warmer doesn't mean it's bad. But I think it's just a case of Hasbro making way too many. And it being one of the only leader classes that really got put out in retail near the end of the year. Because I never saw Sandstorm in stores. I never saw Sandstorm. That's wild to me. I ended up getting it at the toy department later on. But Dragon Megs is still a great toy, just unfortunately another victim of a re-release that I think Hasbro went a little too heavy on. Alright, getting into the last 4, and I think these are just genuinely some of the worst peg warmers and shelf warmers I've seen in Transformers history in quite some time. Shadow Striker. Oh boy. If I had $1 for every Shadow Striker I have seen in stores this year, I would have enough to build a small little squad of Shadow Strikers. I've seen so many. This figure just ain't moving. And unfortunately, it seems like the RID Sideburn repaint, like pre-tool, isn't really moving much either. But this one is by far the worst Legacy Deluxe. I saw this everywhere. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is because it's not a very popular character. I don't think that many people were clamoring for Shadow Striker, and I think the ones that were pretty disappointed to see that it was like a weird RID homage, because the first Shadow Striker was a retool of Sideburn. They kind of integrated that into this Legacy one, and I think it was just a little too, abstract for what they were going for. I mean, you still have some of the asymmetry of Shadow Striker, but I just don't think enough was there. And I kind of wouldn't mind seeing them give Shadow Striker another crack at some point, but I don't see that ever happening because this figure did not move. They saw that probably and are like, we need to avoid this character like the plague. And I kind of don't blame them. It's, pretty obscure character, but still, it's a terrible peg warmer. Not the greatest figure. I would say out of all the figures on this list, this is the worst figure, but it's still not bad. Maybe pick it up for $10 or something. All right, next up, I kind of alluded to him. This was the Cybertron Starscream's Wavemate, Silverbolt. I feel like the Starscreams moved a little faster than the Silverbolts. I feel like I always see Silverbolt everywhere. And again, great toy, great interpretation of Beast Wars Silverbolt. This is a character I feel like we needed for a long time, and it's great to have such a prominent Maximal on my Beast Wars shelf. But I guess they just made too many of them. I think they really overproduced this wave of Voyagers. This Starscream and this Silverbolt, there's just so many of them on the shelves, dude. They made way too many. They went overboard. And again, good figure. I feel like almost all of these on this list are really good figures. They just made too many, and I think the collectors and kids that got their fill didn't need another fill, and the ones remaining were just left to rot, probably for the clearance aisle. It's a shame, but what can you do? Alrighty, getting into the last 2, and I think these ones are pretty significant. There have been some Walmarts where I've gone to, and I see whole pegs, yes, pegs, with an S, of Earthspark Deluxe Megatron. Whew, for whatever reason, from Earthspark Wave 1, and to recap, Wave 1 had Megatron, Optimus, Bumblebee, and Twitch. Out of Wave 1, they re-released Bumblebee and Megatron, and just sent a boatload of them to Walmart. There are so many of these at Walmart. It's insane. The top shelf is just stacks and stacks of Megatron and Bumblebee. But I think Megatron is the worst out of the two, because Bumblebee is Bumblebee, and that is a great figure of Bumblebee, and I think kids and collectors are more likely to pick up that Bumblebee than this pretty bleh Megatron. This is probably one of the weakest figures of the Earthspark Deluxes. It's not bad, but it's just not that great. And the show itself isn't super popular. I still haven't caught up with it. I plan to very shortly. But this figure is, very understandable why it's just kind of sitting around. I think when parents are shopping for Transformers toys, they're going to look for Bumblebee, Optimus, those kind of characters. If anything, they should have re-released Optimus and Bumblebee instead of Megatron and Bumblebee. Because I feel like this Megatron just kind of fell a little flat, unfortunately, with toy sales. And that's why it sticks around. Alrighty, this last one. Again, a little painful. It's a good toy. But that Cybertron Voyager Starscream is the king of foreshadowing, because he foreshadowed his Wavemate, and he foreshadowed that another Starscream would appear on this list. For whatever reason, the Studio Series War for Cybertron Starscream was everywhere in 2024. This guy is literally at every store, and there is at least like 3 of them. It's wild. Why does Hasbro make so many Starscreams? It's crazy to me that I've seen so many of the Starscream and Optimus who actually got a re-release, rightfully so, because that Optimus is great and was getting hard to find. They re-released Prime. I still see more Starscreams than Optimus Prime. How? How did this happen? I have no idea. I have no idea why there are so many of this freaking Starscream. But there are. There are so many of it. And I waited to get this guy on a sale because there's so many of it. I was like, why even feel rushed? I think I got this guy for like $20 or something. I got it so cheap because why wouldn't I wait for a sale when it's that oversaturated in the market? Why wouldn't I wait? Whew, oh boy. Well, guys, I think that's pretty much it. There's my top 10 peg warmers / shelf warmers of 2024. Not all of these were released in 2024, obviously. Some of them just had to stick around a little bit. But these are the 10 figures that I just could not escape whenever I went toy hunting. I saw these guys all of the time. And it's quite a shame. It's quite a shame that there are some Transformers toys that just linger on the shelves when there's other ones that just didn't have enough of a time to shine. Like with the Legacy Leader classes, I never saw Sandstorm. There's a decent amount of figures that I just didn't really have enough time to really see and experience in stores. Like Earthspark Deluxes, I never found Prowl. I never saw Earthspark Prowl. Or Aftermath in stores, never found Aftermath either. Or the Orange Guy. Or Hashtag. I still really want Hashtag. I've never even had the chance to get Hashtag. It's tragic that there are definitely quite a few figures that Hasbro kind of mismanages and either re-releases or just makes too many of. It's a very interesting market out there. But hey, one good thing, all these figures that you still see lingering on the shelves and you see right in front of you, you can get them pretty cheap. Dragon Megatron, one of my favorite leader classes in recent years, you can get him for like under the price of a Voyager if you're shopping around well enough. It's quite the figure for that price, I can tell you that, and definitely worth it. There's some that I wouldn't say are as worth it. Some of the core classes, I'm not a big core class fan. Shadow Striker, Megatron, but there's some that I definitely think are worth grabbing, like Strong Arm, Air Razor, if you're into Studio Series Rise of the Beast. Definitely Starscream, both of them, I guess, but especially the Cybertron one, but I'm very biased in that opinion. And there's some that I feel like were just my own unique experience. I'm not sure how many people are still seeing Studio Series 86 RC, but I still am, at least from time to time. So there we go, guys. There are my top 10 peg warmers of 2024. Your area may have varied. You may have never seen one of these guys in stores. If you never saw Earthspark Megatron or Fall of Cybertron Starscream, I don't know what to tell you. I just call him Fall of Cybertron. I don't care. I don't know what to tell you. Those figures are everywhere. I don't know how you could not find them. Alrighty, guys. I've rambled on long enough. Again, please share some of your worst peg warmers that haunted your toy hunts in 2024 down in the comments. I would love to hear it. Thank you again very much for watching. Special shout out to channel members as always. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.